Hello, my name is Isaac Martinez. Today I'm here to discuss how grazing can improve rangelands. When most people pass through the vast grasslands of the Midwest or the forests of the Rocky Mountains, in their eyes it's virtually unchanged. I had these same thoughts growing up. Uh, Grazing on public and private lands has been controversial at times, but has been a key tool in improving our nation's rangelands. I have some experience with this, working as a range technician for the U.S. Forest Service, and I'm currently getting a degree in range science. Today, I will discuss some of these historic changes in the former rangelands. In 1540, Coronado brought the first livestock to the western United States. In the 1600s, the first Spanish settlements occurred here in the Southwest. Prior to the Civil War, livestock were raised for domestic uses in settlements in the West. In the Palouse Prairie, cattle were raised in large scale due to local marketing. In 1866, when the railroad had reached Kansas, the end of the Civil War sparked the livestock production and provided a market for longhorn cattle from Texas. In the 1870s, the cattle industry increased in the central and northern plains as well as the Oregon and Washington area, or Palouse Prairie. From 1865 to 1900, the sheep industry expanded west, causing conflict between cattlemen and sheepmen. Cause of the conflict were sheep grazing in areas that were prior claimed by cattlemen due to prior use, and due to cattlemen's inability to move around as much as sheepmen, overstocking became critical. From 1880 to 1910, overgrazing caused great strain on rangelands. Settlers were grabbing land in the Homestead Act, and deterioration on rangelands was not going unnoticed. Stated by Dr. Holojek, in the 19th century, surveys were conducted and the first range experiment was performed. From 1910 and 1915, the first grazing system was conducted by Arthur Sampson. Use of deferment or delayed grazing were these methods used. In the 1930s, the Taylor Grazing Act was brought about, which was one of the greatest achievements in range management, brought by ranchers to manage these rangelands on public lands. And now that I have discussed the historical uses of rangelands, I will now go over their benefits. Rangelands throughout the world are the most common terrain type found throughout. They are uncultivated, comprised of native species, and are used for livestock grazing. Grazing can improve rangelands, which in turn improves wildlife habitat, like for example, certain native bird species. Most range management techniques in the past were used to improve livestock production rather than biodiversity. Current range management techniques are intended to produce both biodiversity and agricultural productivity rather than one or the other. Studies have shown that grazing is essential and a keystone process for grazing on rangeland ecosystems, stated by S. Ferneldorf. Biodiversity of rangelands can be improved by mimicking historical grazing patterns on grasslands. Using grazing systems to distribute livestock is a key tool for range management improvement and prevents livestock from degrading areas near water. As you can see here in this photo, these cows are hanging around this water tank. The soils are depleted, there is no grass left, and it is dominated by shrubby material. In some areas, continuous grazing works best to improve ecological diversity, while in others, a rest rotation type of grazing. In this photo, a mixture of both sheep and cattle with proper management, have turned this area into a late seral stage. Grazing intensity is another factor range managers use. In the coniferous forest, rest rotation is used to improve riparian zones for fish and wildlife habitat. In most areas, conservative or moderate grazing is used. Very rarely is light or heavy grazing ever beneficial to both the land, biodiversity, and also net return. Stated by S. Hobby, nutrient cycling through herbivore carbon decomposition is beneficial to plant growth and native species. Now that I've Now that you know some of the benefits of grazing on rangelands, I will go over what is being done to sustain rangelands. One of the methods used to improve rangelands is range monitoring. Stated by S. Woods, for years, informal methods of range monitoring was preferred by ranchers, but in recent years, formal methods of range monitoring have been used and have been adopted by federal agencies. Understanding range plans is a key role in range monitoring by targeting certain species and improving key species. One of the greatest ways to sustain rangelands is conservation. Here in the United States, rangelands are some of the most vital natural resources and need to be conserved for future generations. Stated by Jerry Holochek. From uses such as recreation and wildlife habitat ecosystem services, such as clean air, clean water, and food security, it is the responsibility for every public and private landowner to conserve rangelands. To conclude my speech, I have discussed the historical impacts on rangelands, how rangelands are improved through grazing, and how we've learned from our mistakes. I hopefully have left you a little more informed, and I hopefully have left you with a greater respect for the land and a greater respect for our forest and range managers. Thank you for your time.